Welcome to Slash Bash, where today I am bringing you another pro-revenge Reddit video. The result of my yard work. I posted this in another subreddit, but it was suggested I also try it here, so here it is. First, let me say that I am not 100% certain this is pro-revenge, because I don't necessarily think of myself in that league. I live in a consolidated county. That means that the city and county governments merged some years back, ostensibly to reduce administrative and infrastructure costs. This is important because services like fire, police, utilities, and trash pickup are now managed by former county officials and not the city officials. Many of these services are also much more inefficient, and some services have been outsourced to private companies. My municipality outsourced trash and yard waste pickup a few years ago, and the two companies who now do the collections are woefully inadequate, and their services cost more than when the city or county did it. Both companies have similar sets of rules regarding what can be put out for collection. They take fewer types of waste away, and they no longer come 2 days a week as the city once did, but now only come 1 day a week. We're all paying more money for less service. Now that the background is done, here's the story. I did some yard work over the course of a couple of weekends last summer, cutting some limbs, trimming some shrubbery, and cutting down a dead tree in my backyard. Knowing what the rules are for how much yard waste, limbs, leaves, and such can be put out, I bagged everything that was supposed to be bagged, filled up 3 of them. Things like leaves and small clippings, weeds, and such. The paper bags for yard waste from the big box home improvement stores are what they require, so I use those. I just fill them halfway up so as to not make them too heavy for the waste collectors, even though there are no written weight restrictions. However, even without an official weight restriction, if a bag is too full, they will knock it over to spill out some of the contents so they then don't have to pick it up. I cut the larger limbs down to under 4 feet in length, or they wouldn't be picked up. Anything at all they can do to get out of picking something up, they will do, and they almost always leave a horrendous mess behind when they do pick things up. The pile put out for collection is not allowed to be any wider than 10 feet, nor any deeper or higher than 5 feet, nor may it contain any piece longer than 4 feet. All bags must be placed in a row no more than 3 feet away from the limb pile. My pile was maybe 4 inches longer than the 10 feet, and only because of the tiny ends of the limbs, smaller than a toothpick, hanging out of the pile. The pile was no higher than 3 feet and no deeper than 4 feet. In other words, it fell within the size limits, except for a few twigs with leaves. I also had the 3 bags, each about half full of clippings and leaves, all lined up exactly as required and about 2 feet away from the main pile. The pickup team were scheduled to come on a Tuesday, but when I got home from work Tuesday afternoon, everything that I had left for them to take was all still there. There was a pre-printed notice on my door that my pickup exceeded the prescribed size limits, and the note said that I would be required to either pay a $250 oversized load fee or reduce the size of the pile by half to make it fit into the limit. This is where the revenge part of the story comes into play. I had the next 2 days off, so the next morning, bright and early, I got out my hedge trimmers. I trimmed the ends of the pile to exactly 9 feet in length. After carefully laying those trimmed bits on top of the pile, I went to the backyard where the limbs I had not trimmed up the week before were stacked for the following week's pile. I searched through it and found 4 long, fairly straight limbs. I removed all the smaller branches and leaves from these limbs, ending up with 4 moderately straight poles, each about 7 feet long. I marked 1-foot intervals on each pole in fluorescent orange paint and stuck them in the ground, out at the curb in the front yard, at the corners of a rectangle exactly 5 feet wide and 10 feet long. I even got out some surveyor's tape, bright pink plastic tape used to mark property corners, and tied it onto and around the stakes at the height of 5 feet. This established a visual outline of the volume I was required to stay within. I made absolutely sure that everything in the pile was completely inside the poles and below 5 feet in height. This required adding almost 2/3 of the remaining pile in the backyard to the stack out front to bring it up to 4 feet 6 inches in width, 4 feet 6 inches in depth, and 9 feet 6 inches in length, with no pieces longer than 46 inches. The pile was almost twice as much material as before. This included some small logs up to 4 inches in diameter, the limit is 5 inches. Also, each one was 46 inches long. Everything was within the limits of a 5 foot by 5 foot by 10 foot area the waste company mandates. I carried each of the 3 bags of clippings to the backyard and filled each of them up as much as possible, while still being able to fold over the tops and staple shut each bag. I also included small 8-inch to 10-inch sections of the ends of larger limbs for added weight. The bags were now completely filled and weighed more than twice what they had before. I had to use a hand truck to get them out to the curb, they were so heavy. Oh, and all the extra clippings I had generated filled up 2 more bags. So now the total was 5 bags, the company limit. After all of my prep work was done, I then went inside, called the company, and very nicely asked that they come to pick up my yard waste since they had not done so on Tuesday. The company agreed to send out a truck and crew and told me I would have to pay the fee. Come on over then, I told them. The crew arrived quickly and luck was with me, as it happened to be the very same crew that normally collects in my neighborhood. When they arrived, I pulled a 25-foot Stanley tape measure from my pocket and asked them to measure the poles to confirm that the space was within the required limits. They did so and agreed the pile was not oversized. Then they proceeded to spend the next 2 hours manually loading it all onto their truck. Oh, and it took both of them to manhandle each of those bags into the back of the truck, too. Afterwards, I told them very nicely and with a smile that I knew what 10 feet was. Then I pointed to the fence where it was marked with orange electrical tape, and I thanked them for coming to pick up my yard waste. The 2 tired, sweaty waste disposal guys just groaned, got into their truck, and drove off. There was no extra fee added to my bill for that month, and there never has been since. Now, I know, they got paid for their time, and I know that I had to do a lot of extra work on my days off to get my revenge, but since last July, I have not once ever had them leave so much as a single leaf on the ground in front of my house. In the end, they actually had to do some hard work with me standing there in shorts, smiling, and drinking cold Gatorade while they were sweating. This is John from /Bash. Thanks for watching. If you've enjoyed the video and want to be the first to know when the next one drops, then now is the time to subscribe and click on that notifications bell. I would love for you to drop a like, share it with your friends, and I'll see you in the next one.